beautiful friends, welcome. I wanted to talk to you quickly about the new moon eclipse that we are having in March 2025, the 29th of March, and the impact this might be having on us energetically and what we could be feeling, experiencing as actually this eclipse portal now closes. It started with the full moon eclipse 2 weeks ago, and now we're at the point where we're having a solar eclipse which is going to close this portal. Now, this isn't a unique thing that happens just this year. This is something that happens twice yearly, and within these eclipse portals we can find that we have quite a lot of changes going on in our lives. The other astrology at the moment, there are several planets in retrograde, including Venus and Mercury, which could hit both our sort of ways of communication and expressing ourselves, and also anything to do with love, relationships and connections. However, this one in particular has been very much an awakening. You have probably felt over the last 2 weeks like there has been a lot that's come to the surface, which is typically what happens during these eclipse seasons. The 2 weeks between feel like a doorway. They are an opening for great change, and I feel sometimes like there is a lot of emphasis that's put on this one event, like this one moon, this one eclipse, whatever it might be, when actually this is leading us to a point where we may open a new door, we might close some, we might walk on a completely different path. Often there can be changes, disruptions, things that happen that might be unexpected. It might be dramatic sometimes, and quite honestly, where it hits us in our life, whatever we're feeling, whatever might be going on, is going to be very specific and unique to all of us. There are themes within that though that are reflected both at a personal level within many of us, within our own individual experiences and the wider collective. And some of the themes that I'm seeing right now is this uprising of truth and this lessening, this relinquishing of the old vision of self, the old versions of self that we might be holding onto and clinging onto. Now, we could be desperately wanting change. The change could be the one thing that we really, really want to have in our life. And actually, it's the process of change that we're resisting, the thing that scares us. When actually, if we think about it and we're really, really honest with ourselves, the scariest thing is things remaining the same. Take a look at where in your life you might be wanting for a change, a different experience. This can be something positive that we want to manifest. It could be something that we want to have anew in our lives. It might be something that we're ready to end a chapter of. Ask ourselves, if we ask ourselves, what is actually scarier, having that thing and all the different emotions, the change, the uprooting, the unpredictability that might bring, or things remaining exactly as they are right now? That comfort zone, that stability is actually the one thing that can hold us back sometimes, coupled with the hope that something outside of us is going to make those changes happen for us, which sometimes they do. But often the way we have true power in our lives is being able to flow with these changes, or being able to trust in the change that's going to happen, even if we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Trust in the process, that unseen process, that void, the potential space where the liminal, where anything is possible and yet it feels super intangible. When we go to that space and we allow ourselves to trust in the unknown, that is where the magic can happen. That is where the potential can unfold. This is a new moon, so typical energies around those new moons are planting new seeds, sending affirmations out, sending intentions out, making a different wish, a different dream, and thinking of that potential energy and what is it that we would love, what do we want. And then what do we do after that? Do we sit waiting for the change to happen? We want the change to happen right now. Most people, all of us, at some point get frustrated when, whether we're on a spiritual path or not, get frustrated when there is this sensation that the thing hasn't happened yet. And we can actually read into that the thing is never going to happen. But the process sometimes is the thing that we don't recognize. It's very easy to set a starting point, maybe an initiation point, a massive life change, an intention set out through a ritual or a practice or a group event, these sorts of things. those would be a starting point. That's the opening of a doorway, the opening of a possibility, a new pathway, a new timeline. And then what we do is we walk a ways along that path, and there is a lot that will change. There is a lot that can happen. There is a process potentially in the middle in order for us to get to the realization of whatever it was that maybe we put out into the ether, into the liminal space, into the void space of all creation. Once we've put it out there, how long are you willing to go through a process? Because many of us really want the change, but we want it to be immediate. And whilst some manifestations, some changes, they do happen instantaneously, sometimes we have to be willing to commit to walking a different path. Sometimes we have to have the courage to stand there and say, oh no, I'm going to do this and live my life now in a way that brings forwards a different sense of authenticity, a different sense of honoring myself, my needs, wants and wishes, my commitment to my self-expression, to allowing myself to be and to express my authentic self. And that involves a process. That is a lifelong commitment. We are all on a deeper path of truth, working towards deeper levels of that experience. And it starts with these moments. These moments are the catalysts. They are the opening of a new door or the closing of one, often multiple at the same time. And they can be dramatic. They can be very, very impactful. They can be the turning points in our lives, or the moments at which we realize that something really does have to change. And whilst there is an awful lot that we can do in terms of surrendering energetically and not pushing and holding on to those fragments of a life, of a self that we once were or believed that we needed to be, sometimes there really needs to be a surrender and saying, okay, that hasn't worked, or this thing hasn't happened, this thing doesn't make me happy, this isn't what I feel like I'm here to do, this doesn't feel as fulfilling as it once did. Being really authentic with the self, really honoring that truth that you feel within you, something that is, it can come from the soul, it can come from a very deep place. But what it doesn't come from typically is the people around us saying to us, oh, you know, maybe try this, maybe try this. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's sort of, you know, those people come as messengers. But this feels like an awakening, an awareness, a catalyst in life, probably from some external circumstances, excuse the wind, or a revisiting of a very deep emotional experience, or many deep emotional experiences, depending on what it is that's actually happening in our lives and what we're working on. And realizing that it's time to walk a slightly different path, time to do things in a slightly different way. Maybe something new is calling you. Maybe something has really run its course. Maybe we are seeing things with fresh eyes, or maybe we're just making a commitment to ourselves to live in a way that feels far more comfortable, that feels far more authentic. And when I say comfortable, I don't mean comfortable as in just staying put and doing the thing that has been comfortable for a long time. Comfortable with the soul, comfortable with your inner being, the true authentic self, the version of you that doesn't feel they have to be, act, do, perform in any which way, that doesn't need to emit an aura of perfection in this life, no matter how spiritual you are, or whatever path you're showing up on, whether you're helping others or whether you're just very focused on your own personal work. Not emitting that sense of self that needs to be, you know, perfectly veneered all the time. Actually accepting, no, maybe this is going to be messy, maybe it's going to be raw, maybe I just need to be real with it for a while, and allow this process to happen, allow for that transformation to happen, allow for the things to change. It's the commitment to ourselves and going through the process that's going to get us to where we want to be right now. And whilst there will be these gilded videos, pictures, perceptions, things that we see, especially on social media and the outer world, about how life is, it doesn't mean that we need to go and air all of our whatevers all over everything. But being real about, you know, maybe before we post that picture, do I need to edit it? Do I need to do this? Am I going to overly scrutinize myself, make myself feel bad for being this version of who I am right now? Or am I going to accept this version of who I am? And within my own authenticity to who I am, allow this moment to be part of my process, allow myself to experience the things that I want to experience in this moment without waiting for them held off far in the distance. Am I allowed to open myself to those positive experiences without berating myself or telling myself that I'm not good enough? There is so much that's coming up right now, and it feels like the waking up of a brand new possibility, but also renewing our commitment of what it is that we want to do, and also the faith in ourselves to get there, even if it isn't instant, by the commitment to going through those processes, allowing for the change to happen, by showing up for ourselves, by honoring our inner truth and making decisions, setting boundaries, reaching for new goals. It really feels like this is one of those really big shifting points as a collective that steers us away from some of these ideals that are being perpetuated, and some of the imagery that we're seeing, and just the belief as well that things are just going from bad to worse and it's absolutely hopeless, and that there is no possibility, no reason to experience or feel joy, when there is always a reason to experience joy in every single day if we find it. Sometimes for me it's just the sky. Sometimes it can be a really stressful day and it's just the sky, or seeing something that's just having an appreciation of something, feeling the joy in that, enjoying our lives and making space for it. So take from that what you will. I hope it assists some of you. I will do a couple of runes quickly, but most of all, the final thing I'm going to end on is, I'm kind of on that note, is keep in mind the vision of the life that you want to live, the person that you want to be, the person that you want to become, but also recognize that you yourself in this present moment are worthy of already experiencing that. That version of you that you see isn't completely separate from you. You wouldn't have those dreams unless it was something that was there, like a spark within you that I always see it as Nadi's energy, that sort of need fire, that spark within that ignites something that sets us on that path, that sets us on a crusade, a quest for self-discovery, for deeper understanding of our truest self. And don't lose hope. No matter what is saying in the outer world around you, it will become very, very clear to us where we might be holding on to hope for things outside of us to magically change, improve, where actually the person that needs to take the reins of that is us, and to accept that sometimes we need to be that change. Not that we can fix and change other people. Sometimes the change is saying, I can't fix or change the situation, but this is what I can do. And again, it always comes back to that self-development, that self-growth, at whatever level you find this, because people work in all different ways, with all different belief systems, and many of us within different religions, theologies, different paths, might all be working towards the same thing, and actually we're not so different. So it's recognizing that the things that we're doing, the things that we want to achieve, that we're already worthy and deserving of them. And that truth, that real authentic truth, shifting away from maybe some of these ideals of the past, that we realize, maybe things that were built upon a particular belief that we've had maybe since childhood, maybe a cultural understanding, or societal, maybe your personal friendship group, a culture that's created within that about the way in which you need to do things. Sometimes when we have outgrown something, we no longer wish to live by a certain set of rules or conditions that don't feel right to us. That's when we dig in and we feel and recognize that inner truth and go, actually, do you know what? This doesn't feel right anymore. I'm not going to pursue that path, and I'm going to lean into this vision. I do believe that this is possible, and it might mean some changes. It could involve a process. I might not get there overnight, but you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it because this feels right for me. And actually, when you realize that it's not just the goal that matters, but every single day of your life, that is the journey that is getting you to the next landmark. Maybe that goal you have now isn't the thing that ultimately you want to reach at the end of your days. Maybe this is something that gets you to the next place, and from there on in, there'll be something else, and that's okay. Just keep dreaming, keep envisioning the life, the future that you want, not just for us as individuals, not just for ourselves, but for the wider collective as well. And I think keep bringing that energy, that frequency, and anchoring that into our lived experience on a daily basis, even if it's just a couple of minutes of visualization, intention setting, writing, just anything that really anchors that frequency here is going to be a massive part of that work that helps the collective at this time. So let's get some runes. And do write down, I know I just said it before, but do write down if you prefer to write, or just have a really clear vision of what it is that you want to intend and create over this next cycle, over the next 6 months. Okay, we've got Laguz, and it's come out in the reverse, and this touches very much on that sense of resistance. Laguz is the rune of water. Water has the ability to shift its forms from ice to liquid water to steam, and it always returns to the purity of its state. It has an essence and a structure that can be flexible. It has the power to erode mountains, but also can be very, very gentle and calming and pure and healing, and is the sustenance of all life on earth. So when we think of Laguz in the reverse, there is this essence of resistance, where maybe we're trying to push water uphill, where maybe we're trying to fill a vessel that is bottomless, that cannot be filled. And we might know people, places, situations like that within our lives that we just keep pouring into, that actually are draining from us and taking from us, or where we keep trying to push a certain way to create or achieve a change that is reliant on something that is not going to be moved, or perhaps it's just not our responsibility to move it. Maybe that's not our role. Maybe there is something that we need to learn from a particular situation where we're feeling a lot of resistance, and the release of that resistance is making a commitment to ourselves that we're going to do something in a different way, to approach the situation in a different way, and ultimately achieve a different result. And I'm just going to go back and circle back to something I said in the middle of that it's not always our responsibility to change other people. There has to be a willingness for other people within situations to also make a commitment to change. Otherwise, it is feeling like pushing water uphill all the time. So I really would lean into and ask ourselves some very, very honest questions about what we might be holding on to that is actually creating resistance, where maybe we're trying to hold things together that is making us feel stuck, making us feel like we can't move, and holding us back potentially. Let's get another one. What have we got? Sevilo, I'm so happy to see this rune. Again, the catalyst, the change, the light of the sun, that comes in, and also potentially lightning strikes. This can come in and like a bolt of pure raw potential energy, just like lightning is. It's something that's discharged, something that can be suddenly awakened within us, an awareness, realization, inspiration that strikes out of nowhere. You might suddenly get one of those feelings, a nudge from the universe, something that says, do you know what, go and do this thing. Go and do this thing, try this, go and research this thing. It can be those moments where our intuition just gives us an idea out of nowhere, or somebody says something and it piques your interest and you're like, yeah, I want to know more about that. And that is a doorway opening. That is a catalyst. It's not always something terrifying or scary or cataclysmic. Sometimes it is a conversation with a complete stranger that catches you off guard, or somebody that says something, a word, a song, and it is a catalyst. It is that bolt from the blue that just in that moment makes so much sense, and sometimes actually is just the starting point. It doesn't always make sense, but it takes you on a journey to which you discover, learn something new, you begin a whole new pathway of understanding, and then at some point later down the line it makes sense. So trust those unexpected, visions, information, wisdom, whatever it is that comes to the surface at this time. And but it feels like there's going to be something, and it will lead you on to something that's really quite exciting. And also, whilst we need to be really, really careful around the solar eclipses and obviously looking at the sun, it will be visible within the UK if it's clear, if it's not cloudy. But also taking some time to absorb some sunlight. I personally, you know, we always have to be careful with UV and everything else, but taking some time to absorb that solar energy, receive those light codes, is really, really powerful as well. Do it in a way that feels safest for you, and remember that I can't give any kind of medical advice. Oh, we've got two for the final ones. What do we get? Daggers and what is this? Hagalas. Okay, that's two very big runes to end a cycle. It's the end of a cycle, and the Hagalas might be the change. It might be a more cataclysmic change. Some of us might have those experiences, the unexpected. It doesn't always have to be dramatic. It doesn't always have to be chaotic. It doesn't always have to be scary. It could be a self-commitment to make a change. Sometimes it's the things that we go, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to book that flight. I'm going to go and have that experience. I'm going to ring that person. I'm going to accept that connection or that job or whatever it is. Sometimes this Hagalas energy, although it can seem like the destruction of one thing, represented within the Daggers rune here is the essence of the cycle, of the rebirth, of the setting and the rising of the sun, and how that continually cycles day in, day out within our lives. This is quite metaphoric for the cycles of experiences that we might have that run their course, and the cycles that then create in our life. Everything has its time. Everything has its moment. Something can feel like the most wonderful, amazing, best thing ever for a time. And then all of a sudden things might shift, and we're ready to go into a new phase of our expression, a new relationship, a new career, whatever it might be. There is always a cycle. There is always a time. So there is this sense here of some changes which are going to bring about the beginning of a new cycle. This is going back to that eclipse energy that I said. It's like the opening or closing of doors, sometimes both at the same time. You can't be at the very bottom of the cycle of Daggers where the sun has set without it immediately beginning to rise once again. Even in that deepest, darkest moment, you are on a new trajectory. So there is an essence of, again, like I said at the beginning, trusting in the process, taking command of the process and releasing the resistance to some of the things that we might have been holding on to. Perhaps there will be some excitement with these changes. Perhaps there is this opportunity for a new beginning. Maybe there is a decision to stop something, to end something, to close something, to just walk through a new door. Sometimes it's the acceptance of something. That is the change, that is the shift. Sometimes it is a very internal process where we just go, okay, do you know what, I'm ready, or I accept this for what it is. Release the resistance, that internal self-conflict, that self-doubt that says, I don't know where this is going to go or how this is going to happen. The truth is, none of us do. None of us do. There is no guarantee. Give yourself the grace, release some of the resistance, and allow for the potential of a new possibility. Always use your judgment in your situation, but it feels like it's going to be a very interesting time. Now, I'm going to send you all my love. I hope you have a wonderful new moon. Enjoy the beginnings of April, which are very, very much on the horizon. Spring is well and truly here in the UK, and it's beautiful. I will be back with some more readings very, very soon. Sending you all my love, and I'll speak to you later. Bye-bye.